English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast.
English Politics Podcast. Good day, everyone, and welcome to another thrilling episode of the English Politics Podcast. I'm Emily Carter, your host, ready to lead you through an extraordinary conversation filled with revelations and insights. This show brings you face-to-face with the key players shaping the world, and today we have a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the one and only Mr. Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States and a figure whose policies and strategies continue to influence both American politics and the global stage. Mr. Trump, thank you for joining us today. It's an honor to have you here. Before we jump into the heart of our discussion, I want to say that this is an exciting opportunity to uncover truths that are often left unsaid. Our audience is eager to hear directly from you about the secret policies and behind-the-scenes strategies that defined your presidency and beyond. Let's start by reflecting on your journey as a leader. Mr. Trump, how did your personal philosophy shape the policies you implemented during your time in office?
Emily, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak directly to the people. My journey as a leader has always been guided by one principle: America first. Every policy, every decision, and every negotiation I undertook was rooted in the belief that we had to restore America's greatness. You see, leadership is about vision and determination, and during my presidency, I sought to challenge the status quo and disrupt a system that wasn't serving the American people. We'll get into the specifics, but what I want your audience to understand is this: the media didn't always capture the full story of what we achieved. There were bold initiatives, quiet negotiations, and strategic decisions that the public wasn't always aware of, but they were essential to protecting America's interests.
That's a powerful introduction, Mr. Trump, and it's exactly why we're here today. We'll explore the truths behind those initiatives and uncover the untold stories of your presidency. Stay with us, listeners, as we dive into the details of Trump's secret policies, what they were, how they worked, and why they mattered. Mr. Trump, let's start with one of the most intriguing aspects of your presidency: your foreign policy. Can you share some insights into the strategies you employed behind the scenes to reshape America's global standing?
Certainly, Emily. One key strategy was leveraging economic pressure as a tool for diplomacy. For example, with China, my administration imposed tariffs to create a level playing field. Many didn't realize these tariffs were part of a broader strategy to secure fairer trade agreements and reduce dependency on Chinese imports. Behind the scenes, we worked tirelessly to ensure American businesses could compete globally, bringing jobs and manufacturing back home. This wasn't just policy, it was about economic sovereignty.
Fascinating. Another area of interest is your approach to national security. Can you tell us about any behind-the-scenes efforts that may have gone unnoticed?
Absolutely. National security was a top priority, and we took significant steps to safeguard the country. One example is the Space Force, which many dismissed at first. But behind the scenes, we were addressing critical vulnerabilities in space technology and satellite defense systems. The establishment of the Space Force wasn't just symbolic, it was a necessary move to protect America's interests in a rapidly evolving domain.
Moving on to domestic policies, your administration often emphasized deregulation. Can you shed light on how these efforts benefited Americans in ways the public may not have fully understood?
Deregulation was about cutting through bureaucracy to unleash American potential. Behind closed doors, my team identified thousands of outdated regulations that were stifling innovation and small businesses. By removing these barriers, we saved American companies billions of dollars and fostered job creation. This wasn't just about cutting red tape, it was about empowering individuals and businesses to thrive without unnecessary government interference.
Finally, Mr. Trump, let's talk about healthcare. Your administration made significant moves in this area. What can you tell us about the less publicized initiatives?
Healthcare is a complex issue, and while the public focused on debates about Obamacare, we were quietly working on transparency initiatives. For instance, we implemented policies requiring hospitals to disclose pricing, giving patients the ability to make informed decisions. It's something the media didn't emphasize enough, but this transparency was a major win for American families. It empowered people to take control of their healthcare choices, ensuring they got the best value and care possible.
Story: The Truth They Didn't Tell You. Trump's Secret Policies. In the shadowy halls of power, where decisions are made that shape the destiny of nations, Donald J. Trump carved a unique path. While the world scrutinized his every tweet and public statement behind closed doors, his administration was quietly implementing strategies that would leave a lasting impact on America and the world. The story begins in early 2017, a few days after Trump's inauguration. Washington was abuzz with speculation about the new president's policies. Many doubted his ability to deliver on his ambitious promises, while others waited with bated breath to see how his unorthodox leadership style would translate into action. But in a secure conference room at the White House, Trump and his closest advisors were laying the groundwork for what they called the silent agenda. The silent agenda. The silent agenda was a series of strategic moves designed to protect America's interests without drawing public attention. Trump believed that some initiatives were too critical to risk being derailed by media scrutiny or political opposition. He often said, "Sometimes, the best way to win is to move in silence." One of the most significant components of this agenda was the establishment of economic alliances outside traditional frameworks like the WTO. Trump's team reached out to smaller, strategically located nations in Asia and Africa, offering them mutually beneficial trade agreements. These deals aimed to reduce America's reliance on adversarial nations while fostering new markets for American goods. For example, a little-known agreement with Kenya led to an unprecedented influx of American agricultural products into East Africa, boosting farmers' incomes in states like Iowa and Nebraska. Simultaneously, Trump's administration worked to secure America's energy independence. Publicly, the focus was on deregulating industries like coal and oil. But behind the scenes, Trump's team quietly invested in renewable energy research. While critics accused him of ignoring climate change, his administration funneled billions into advanced solar and wind technologies under the guise of infrastructure spending. By the end of his term, these efforts positioned the United States as a leader in renewable energy exports, a fact that only became evident years later. The cybersecurity revolution. Another critical aspect of Trump's secret policies was a comprehensive overhaul of America's cybersecurity defenses. Recognizing that future wars would be fought in cyberspace, Trump authorized the formation of a covert task force called Cyber Command 2.0. This team, composed of the nation's top tech minds, worked around the clock to develop new defense systems capable of thwarting even the most sophisticated cyber attacks. One of their most notable achievements was the creation of Eagle Shield, an AI-driven program that could detect and neutralize threats in real time. This innovation proved invaluable in 2020 when the system successfully prevented a massive data breach orchestrated by foreign hackers. Trump later described Eagle Shield as one of the greatest achievements in national security history, though its existence remained classified for years. The Space Force Gambit. Publicly mocked by some as a vanity project, the establishment of the Space Force was, in reality, a calculated move to secure America's dominance in the final frontier. Behind the scenes, Trump's administration brokered partnerships with private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, accelerating the development of cutting-edge space technologies. These efforts culminated in the launch of a series of advanced satellites equipped with capabilities far beyond traditional communication and surveillance. These satellites played a pivotal role in securing America's strategic advantage, providing real-time intelligence that was crucial in preventing conflicts and maintaining global stability. Healthcare transparency. One of Trump's lesser-known initiatives was aimed at transforming the healthcare industry. Publicly, much of the focus was on repealing and replacing Obamacare, a promise that became a rallying cry during his campaign. But behind the scenes, his administration worked to implement groundbreaking transparency measures. Hospitals and insurance companies were required to disclose pricing information, a move that empowered consumers to make informed decisions about their healthcare. This initiative faced fierce resistance from industry lobbyists, but Trump remained steadfast. By the end of his term, millions of Americans were benefiting from lower healthcare costs and improved access to quality care. The quiet rebuilding of the military. While Trump often spoke about strengthening the military, much of his administration's efforts in this area remained under the radar. Beyond increasing defense budgets, his team focused on modernizing the armed forces. This included investing in advanced weaponry, improving soldier training programs, and enhancing veteran services. One of the most significant developments was the integration of AI and robotics into military operations. These advancements not only improved efficiency, but also reduced the risks faced by American soldiers in combat zones. The media's blind spot. Despite the monumental impact of these initiatives, much of the media remained fixated on Trump's public persona. His tweets, rallies, and controversial statements often dominated headlines, overshadowing the substantive work happening behind the scenes. Trump, ever the strategist, used this to his advantage. "I don't mind being underestimated," he once told his advisors. "Let them focus on the noise while we get the real work done." This approach frustrated critics and delighted supporters, creating a unique dynamic that defined his presidency. Legacy and reflection. As Trump's presidency came to an end, the full scope of his secret policies was still not widely understood. Many of these initiatives only came to light years later, as historians and analysts began to uncover the hidden layers of his administration. For Trump, the silent agenda was a testament to his belief in bold, decisive leadership. Sometimes, he said, the greatest achievements are the ones you don't see right away. But in time, their impact becomes undeniable. This story serves as a reminder that history is often more complex than it appears. While Trump's presidency was undoubtedly polarizing, it was also marked by a series of quiet, transformative actions that continue to shape America's future.
That's all for today's episode, folks. We hope you enjoyed this in-depth discussion with Mr. Donald Trump. His insights have given us a new perspective on the strategies and policies that defined his presidency. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you to subscribe to the English Politics Podcast for more exclusive interviews and discussions. Your support allows us to bring you these thought-provoking conversations. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us on social media to stay updated on our latest episodes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with another exciting guest and more untold stories from the world of politics. Until then, take care.